Hey everyone, RevDMQ here. Hope everyone is doing well. I've been really enjoying these top 5 videos, and so I've got one more for you. This one's a fun one, I think. The top 5 ways that DICE could screw it up for Battlefield 2018. Now, I know what you're thinking. Aren't there a million ways that DICE could screw up this game? Sure, but I'm talking about things that are legitimate possibilities for ending up in the game based on current video game trends and based on what DICE has done in the past. So, let's jump right in. Number 5, self-repairing vehicles. Now, maybe you're with me on this one, maybe you're not, but I think it's time that DICE removes self-repairing vehicles from the game entirely. It has just taken away any dependency on a mechanic, any dependency on a teammate. You're too self-sufficient and it makes the vehicles too OP. I think they need to bring back required team play for repairing your vehicle. Now, some of you might say, hey, in a previous video, you said you should be able to grab your health or ammo from a teammate without having to depend on them. Now you're saying you have to depend on your teammate to repair your vehicle? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. I think that when you're in a vehicle, you really need to rely on your teammates more so than when you're infantry. When you're infantry, you should be able to grab it from your teammates. You still can't do it alone. You have to have somebody else. You're still depending on somebody else. You have to go to them. But with a self-repairing vehicle, you just find a little bit of cover and you take 15 seconds and you can get back to reasonably high health and then you're back in the fight. I think you need to depend on your teammates a little bit more. Number 4 of ways that DICE could potentially screw it up with Battlefield 2018 is no single player. You might think that sounds silly, but don't forget Battlefield 1942, Battlefield Vietnam, Battlefield 2 did not have single-player modes, and this is something that we're seeing in other games right now as well. PUBG, incredibly popular, no single-player. Fortnite has PvE, a form of single-player, but not a campaign like we're used to in a first-person shooter, and we're hearing that Call of Duty is potentially dropping their campaign for the first time ever in the game's franchise. So, this is not foreign to the Battlefield title, nor is it something foreign to current trends. So, I think they need to keep the single player, though, because it's very important. I think that the single player introduces gameplay mechanics. It teaches you how the game works. You can get familiar with the game without getting wrecked in multiplayer, but it also allows you to invest in the game a little bit more. Like, I feel immersed into the game when there's a single player, and I feel like the way that they did Battlefield 1 single player was so good that I would hate to see them leave it behind in Battlefield 2018. Number 3, prioritizing graphics over gameplay. I think that DICE needs to make sure that the gameplay is the #1 focus. With the Frostbite engine, they do incredible things. Ever since DICE and Frostbite have been teaming up, the video game has looked phenomenal. The graphics have been stellar, and so there's a temptation, I think, to always make the game look better and better and better, which is fun, that's great, but don't do that while sacrificing gameplay. And I think we saw that a little bit in Battlefield 4. Okay, when Battlefield 4 launched, absolutely we saw it. But even still, a year out, Levolution was really cool to look at. And it made for great trailers, and it made for incredible teasers. But then once Levolution hit in the actual game, there was all this lag. You couldn't play the game for however long the animation was. And so I don't want to see them prioritize graphics over gameplay. And what I think, if you look at the PUBG Fortnite debate right now, what I think you're seeing is people care more about gameplay than graphics. Fortnite, it looks very good, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't have the realism or the dynamic environment that we would see in a Battlefield title. But people are flocking to it because the gameplay is so much fun for a lot of people. So I want to see Battlefield prioritize gameplay over graphics, and I think they could screw it up if they prioritize graphics over gameplay. The number 2 way that DICE could screw it up with Battlefield 2018 is by incorporating Battlefield Premium again. Now, this is something that was introduced later in the Battlefield franchise life. I think the first title was Battlefield 3 when we got a Battlefield Premium pass. And it's been in the game ever since. Now, I'm hopeful that they won't include it because of the direction they went with Star Wars Battlefront 2 with no season pass. And no season pass there was very promising to me. But I think we need to get rid of Battlefield Premium because it splits the player base. Not everyone is going to buy Battlefield Premium, and very few people are going to buy individual battle packs or individual map content updates. So I think we've got to get rid of Battlefield Premium altogether. It ends up splitting the base, and yes, they will end up offering the maps free again later, which doesn't bother me, but by that point, a lot of the people that have been split have been lost. So just find other ways to increase revenue and keep the player base together. Eliminate Battlefield Premium, no season pass, nothing like that. But then the number 1 way that I think DICE could screw it up for Battlefield 2018 is lowest common denominator development. This is what I'm calling it, at least. I think there's going to be a temptation for DICE to do this, the lowest common denominator development, which I really don't want to see. I don't want DICE to cater to the lowest level, the lowest tier of players for their base. You see, I think something interesting has happened in the first-person world right now, and that is Battlefield has become, in many ways, the premier shooter. Call of Duty has been blowing it. The past few games have not had the Call of Duty player base like we're used to or like they've experienced. And so a lot of those first-person shooter players have migrated to Battlefield, which is great. I'm happy to see that. I love it. But the Call of Duty world and the Battlefield world are very different. They're built on very different foundations. And if DICE ends up catering to a mass number of people who have merged from individual play shooters, if they cater to them in Battlefield 2018, I fear that it could really wreck the franchise. Develop the game that you know and love, and that has historically made Battlefield such an incredible title. Don't develop to the lowest common denominator. Don't develop for, this might sound funny, don't develop for a critical mass appeal. Develop for the game that your veteran fans know and love, because then we will continue to promote the game, we'll continue to drive people to the game, which will then encourage more people to play a better, more strategic, more team-based game than something like a Call of Duty or a Destiny. So as players are leaving other first-person shooter games like Call of Duty and like Destiny and finding a home in Battlefield, I want to see DICE continue to push the strategic team play, intelligent gameplay that we're used to. And so the number 1 thing that I want DICE to avoid is lowest common denominator development. Friends, those are my top 5 ways that I believe DICE could screw it up with Battlefield 2018. Do you think I'm nuts? Do you think there are some massive things that I just missed, I overlooked in this top 5? Well, leave me a comment in the section below. I want to know what you think. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like this video, go ahead and smash that thumbs down. That's fine too. But I'm curious what your feedback is. And subscribe to the channel if you like what you're seeing these days. And if you are so inclined, go ahead and hit that notification button so you don't miss anything that I drop. Thank you, friends. I will catch you in the next one.